below-educated women are practically strangers. The girl brought home by my eldest son was a young lady who grew up in a family that excessively valued educational background. Apparently, a high school dropout mother is not needed. I wasn't invited to the wedding ceremony, nor was I informed about their new home. As I grieved over being separated from my son, a resume arrived for me. My name is Susanna Wisdom. I turned 55 this year. My husband passed away 5 years ago, and now I live with my eldest son. We've always been a dual-income family, but now I've taken over my husband's job. I have 2 sons, Adolf and Theo. My eldest, Adolf, still lives at home, while Theo went abroad for university and continued there for graduate studies. Recently, Adolf got a girlfriend and seems to be planning to introduce her to me soon. If she becomes Adolf's wife, I have fulfilled my responsibility. I hope they could live with me since there's spare room, but I can't decide this alone as his wife's opinion matters too. Adolf announced on Friday night that he's bringing his girlfriend home this Sunday. I wish you'd told me something this important sooner. Adolf scratched his head at my words. He had wanted to introduce me earlier, but she seemed hesitant, and Sunday's plan was made abruptly. Adolf chuckled helplessly about her whimsical nature. I don't want to upset him further, so I compromised. I'm just glad that I don't have urgent work on Sunday. All right, Sunday it is. Let me know the time when you find out. When I said this, okay, Adolf nodded. I looked up, feeling his gaze on me. Anxiety was written all over his face. Is there anything else worrying you? With difficulty. I have a favor to ask, Adolf began. His serious tone made me brace myself. I feared it might be a shotgun marriage. Please don't mention your education or past to her. I relaxed a bit, but then pondered. Could my background cause a problem? Is there a reason? It might sound strange, but Adolf sighed softly and explained. It seems his girlfriend comes from a family that overly emphasizes educational background. Adolf, being a graduate of a renowned state university, is considered elite, and Theo's success isn't an issue. The problem, according to Adolf, is my education. Even before they get married, I feel a little bad that it's such a hassle. It felt troublesome even before meeting her. I wanted to advise against such a woman, but I refrained. I always strive to be a generous mother. I understand. I won't bring up education or work, so bring her with confidence. Adolf smiled, relieved at my words. He seemed to care deeply about her, maybe even sees her as a potential wife. For my son, I can endure a little inconvenience. I thought this at the time. On the day of the family meeting, Adolf was restless from the morning, and it rubbed off on me. A breather came only when he went to pick her up. Just before leaving, he reminded me again about not discussing education or career history. I reassured him repeatedly. About 30 minutes later, Adolf returned with her. We exchanged greetings at the door. She was indeed doll-like in her beauty. Adolf has always preferred beautiful women since his student days. Probably love at first sight for her looks. I felt a bit embarrassed for my son. Her name is Cindy Harold. She definitely had the air of a well-bred young lady, subtle makeup and modest dress, perfect for meeting a boyfriend's mother. She even brought a cake from my favorite bakery. Far from the image I had imagined from Adolf's description, she left a great impression. We chatted over the cake she brought. Cindy laughed easily. She could make a good wife for Adolf. She plans to work after marriage and is currently job hunting in administration. Certainly, the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship will be good. Actually, we're planning to have the wedding ceremony in June, Adolf said. Cindy quietly nodded beside him. June is less than 2 months away. We've already reserved the church, Cindy explained. Really? It was natural for me to be surprised, but even Adolf seemed shocked, apparently unaware of the church reservation. Cindy had decided this with her parents. It seemed Adolf had often visited their home. So Cindy's visit to me was after everything was arranged. At the very end, while I didn't feel ignored, I thought it was logical to meet me first. Adolf had already met Cindy's parents, and I felt somewhat dissatisfied. From then on, Cindy led the conversation. Adolf was unaware of many things that came up, like the church, honeymoon destination, guests, and seating, all decided without him. Mostly reflecting Cindy and her parents' wishes, our family wasn't considered. For instance, as Adolf's brother, Theo would want to attend. I thought he could manage to return, but what if he couldn't? Also, I refrained from mentioning Adolf's workplace at his request, but I wanted to invite people who helped him get his job. I might seem old-fashioned, but I have my standing too. If she's marrying Adolf, she should give him more respect. Cindy seemed oblivious to my feelings, proudly sharing her plans. She appeared to believe her decisions were perfect, needing no input. She wasn't selfish, but very determined. Adolf would likely always be led by her. Thinking of the future made me sigh. Then the worst happened. Cindy hadn't visited since her first greeting, and no family meetings occurred. I hadn't met her parents and felt anxious as the wedding neared. When I asked Adolf about the ceremony preparations, are the preparations for the wedding ceremony underway? His vague answers gave no clarity. As the wedding date approached, he avoided me. When I asked if he had contacted Theo, he said he hadn't due to it being last minute. It's all going to be a small family ceremony. That's all Adolf told me. If it's just family, shouldn't we wait for Theo? Otherwise, I might be the only one from Adolf's side attending. I wondered if Cindy had considered this. The details of their post-marriage life were also unclear. Adolf seemed to be packing his things, probably moving out, but he never discussed a new home with me. It all seemed to be happening without my knowledge. It was a Saturday. Adolf left early, saying he had things to do. Normally, he'd sleep in on Saturdays, but he was busy. Maybe it was work-related. That's what I thought. Take care. What time will you be back? I won't be back today. I'm staying over, and I'll be away for a while starting the day after tomorrow. He said this without looking at me in a hurry. Maybe a long business trip. His job often requires them. Maybe he's more motivated since getting engaged. Okay, it's tough, but good luck. I sent him off, thinking it was work. Looking back, I feel foolish. Adolf didn't return that night. He came back the next day around noon with Cindy. They both looked tired but happy. It's been a while. Was it a wedding planning meeting? I asked Cindy while serving her coffee, to which she responded with a slightly malicious smile. I was surprised. I hadn't seen her make such an expression. The wedding ceremony was completed yesterday as planned, so no more meetings needed. I was speechless at Cindy's words. The wedding had already happened. Of course, I wasn't there, nor was I invited. I had only heard from Adolf about a small family wedding a few days ago. What do you mean? You're just slow because of your low education, right? Cindy said this in a tone that seemed to reveal her true nature with a mocking smile. Listen, I've always been in famous private schools from kindergarten, elementary, junior, and high school, leading a brilliant life. I graduated from a well-known state university. Naturally, my parents are also elite state university graduates. I was born an elite. Cindy seemed very pleased with herself. You must be surprised your son married such a beautiful, high-educated lady from a top family. I was surprised once, too. What are you talking about? I heard from Adolf. You dropped out of high school. Adolf later told me that, surrounded by Cindy's relatives, he had to talk about my and Theo's education before they let him leave. So you didn't let me attend the wedding because I'm a high school dropout? My voice was surprisingly low. Cindy was unfazed, believing she was absolutely right. Low-educated women are practically strangers, she said with contempt, looking at me as if I were something dirty. Strangers have no right to attend a family-only wedding ceremony. We have no obligation to tell them where we'll live. Please cut ties with Adolf from today. I can't introduce someone with a high school dropout in their family to my friends and relatives. It's too embarrassing. Her cuteness during our first meeting seemed like a lie. I looked at Adolf, who was small and looking down. It was a close call not knowing you were a high school dropout until the end. It's good we prevented it. Cindy seemed pleased with herself as she demeaned me. Finally, she pulled Adolf's arm and left the living room. I was so shocked that I couldn't chase after them and just watch them leave. True to Cindy's words, I wasn't informed of their honeymoon destination or new home. During their honeymoon, movers came to take Adolf's things. When I asked where they were going, "We've been asked not to tell," they said awkwardly. I was so angry, I contacted my friend Shirley, who always helps in both personal and professional matters. After hearing the story, she came right away. Seeing my empty house after Adolf's things were removed, I told her everything, including not being informed of the wedding or their new address. After calmly listening, "It must have been tough, but I have thought of a way to get back at her," she said. She showed me a document and our counter-attack began. Finding their new address was surprisingly easy. A newly built condominium near Cindy's parents' house was their new home. I was surprised by her preparedness in choosing a place so close to her own home. The condominium, being new, seemed to have many newlywed tenants. "Excuse me, I'm Adolph Wisdom's mother, newly moved into this building." Actually, I introduced myself to the building manager and the coincidentally present owner, explaining my concerns about not knowing where my son was and the treatment I received from his wife. I told them everything about Cindy. The manager mentioned that Cindy was polite when the owner was around, but changed when they were alone. Once, she berated him for being late with the mail, saying, "Low-educated people are so slow, just like your mom." Adolph was there being scolded too. The owner was surprised that his story matched mine. When I told the story of how they treated me, my now daughter-in-law, as an outsider and didn't let me attend the wedding ceremony, the owner cried with empathy. He sympathized with me, saying he would be scared if his son brought home such a bride. Currently, they're on their honeymoon. Their return from a blissful trip will likely not be as pleasant. There's been no contact from them even around the time they should have returned. Adolph seems to have changed his number, and I couldn't reach him. I told Theo the situation over the phone. He said Adolph had briefly talked to him, apparently under Cindy's control, and threatened with divorce if he contacted me. According to Theo, Cindy's attitude changed after the trip. Their newlywed life wasn't what he imagined. Cindy, initially friendly, became domineering in the neighborhood, leading to being avoided. Theo said the owner was also troubled by her sudden coldness. "Let me introduce you to our new hires." It was a typical morning meeting at the company. Shirley, the HR manager, began introducing the new employees. "This is Cindy Harold. I might be new to many things, but I'm looking forward to working with everyone." She greeted with a smile, well made up and neatly dressed, likely making a good impression on the male staff. Now a few words from our CEO. As I appeared, "What? Why are you here?" Cindy exclaimed in shock. The room tensed for a moment, but I started speaking anyway. "Nice to meet you, new employees. I am Susanna Wisdom, the CEO. Is something wrong?" "Ha, no way! She's just a high school dropout. She can't be a CEO. She's an outsider. Call the police." Cindy's privileged upbringing was evident in her assertive tone. The employees were stunned by her transformation. "So you're Cindy Harold. I've heard about you from HR." "What? What are you talking about? You have nothing to do with this. Get out of here." Ignoring her shouts, I continued. "I heard you flirted with the male HR interviewer, saying, 'Please give me the job,' and leaning in close." "What? Why are you bringing this up now?" "And then you said, 'I want the easiest job. It's ridiculous for someone with my high education to work hard,' right? If you help me, you'll be part of the elite too. As thanks, I'll introduce you to my super elite parents. You don't get such chances often." Those are the words of someone who doesn't appreciate hard work, still depending on their parents. Quite pitiful. "Stop lying, that's nonsense." Such unprofessional language. "But Miss Harold, are you okay with losing your hard-earned job offer? I heard you've been rejected by many companies." "Oh, Job hunting again would be tough, wouldn't it?" "Please don't cancel my job offer, Susanna." The office buzzed at Cindy's words. The CEO's son's wife? She seems odd. Rejected everywhere because she flirted in interviews. I heard murmurs around the room. Despite needing to apologize, Cindy remained arrogant. "I apologize for not inviting you to the wedding and saying low-educated people are strangers," she started saying. "You're incredible for becoming a CEO despite dropping out of high school. I recognize you as an elite and will introduce you to my parents." "Your parents?" "Yes, they're super elite. All my friends, too. If you forgive me, you can join us." She's supposed to be the one apologizing, so why is she being so bossy? "Ms. Harold, no need to introduce me to your parents. Instead, why don't you learn about the real world and manners here at this company?" "You won't cancel my job offer? Thank you." "Yes, I've been eager to hire you." "Really? You still care about your eldest son's wife? We're family, right?" "You'll be in HR." "HR? That sounds tedious. I mean, I'll do my best." "Good. The HR manager is my longtime friend, known as a strict trainer for new employees." "A strict trainer?" "She teaches formal language and manners. You seem to need it, as a person and as a professional." "I already know manners, Susanna. I think I'd be more helpful with desk work." "No. Someone like you should learn from her." "What about being your secretary? I'm the president's daughter-in-law. Better than a complete stranger. You'll pay more than for desk work, right?" "You're my daughter?" I stared coldly at Cindy. Someone who discriminates based on education and takes work lightly isn't my family. I won't make you my secretary. Learn and become someone who doesn't trouble society. That's the best thing you can do right now. What? I'm being polite here. What's with that tone? Just because you're the CEO doesn't mean you're better than me with my higher status. This discussion is over. Let's all work hard today. Wait, we're not done talking. Being pampered since childhood, it must have been humiliating for Cindy. Her whining continued, but I returned to my CEO's office. I thought Cindy would try to improve herself, but she quit within a week. She was fired for continuous, unexcused absences without even submitting a resignation letter. I scolded Adolf, saying if he thinks his behavior is normal, then he's been influenced by Cindy's irrationality. Unusually for me, I raised my voice, and Adolf seemed to finally realize. Calling me a stranger for being a high school dropout, I just treated her as one. It's Cindy's responsibility for lacking social skills and humanity. To this, he said, "Yeah, you're right." Adolf nodded. He said that Cindy's parents continued to stay at their new house, constantly speaking ill of me. "I'm getting a divorce," Adolf declared and returned the next day with his belongings. He shut the front door in front of a crying, pleading Cindy. Her parents scolded her for getting divorced so soon after the wedding, and now she's isolated in the new house. Adolf was like a deprogrammed person back to his former dutiful self. While I want him to be independent and married, having both sons back home for a while is a joy. A little more time just as a family won't hurt.